Special edition books are getting more and more popular. So many of your favorite books are getting the special edition treatment. And they can go anywhere from £20 all the way up to £200, £300 and beyond. So the question is, are they worth the price difference compared to a normal standard hardback or paperback? And today I thought we would go through some of the different price tiers to see which one do you get the most bang for your buck. Just for a baseline, we'll look at some standard hardbacks such as Shadow of the Gods. Now usually hardbacks are released first and they only do a couple runs depending on how popular a book is before they swap to only paperbacks. So then that does give some resale value to just standard hardbacks. However, usually they are fairly plain but high quality. So you have the hardback, usually comes with a dust jacket. Usually the hardback is just plain, doesn't have anything on it, the title on the spine. And other than that, the interior is exactly the same. No end papers, no art, just the standard content that you'd expect from a book. And buying a new hardback can be anywhere from £12 up to £25 here in the UK. I can only go off what prices I see them at, obviously. Depending on where you are, what country, it could be very different. And that first sort of jump up into a special edition is usually around the £30 to £40 mark. And this is where you'll start getting sprayed edges, designs on the naked hardback, and usually art on the end papers. And this is where you'll start seeing sort of collector editions. Things like The Expanse with their collector editions from Orbit. So Leviathan Wakes has this really nice alternate cover. It has got foil on it. It does come with sprayed edges and art on the end papers, as well as a really nice minimalist design on the naked hardback. I really like these collector's editions. I think it's nice that they do offer alternate covers, and also for popular series like The Expanse, it's really nice to actually be able to buy hardbacks after the fact. Trying to buy a hardback for Leviathan Wakes now with the original cover is really difficult. So once a series becomes popular enough, like The Expanse, it's nice to have that option again to pick it up in hardback for those that either really like it and want one for the shelf, or people who just prefer reading from hardbacks. My only concern with these types of special editions is that quite often publishers like to do the first book or maybe the first couple books in a series, but not always do the entire set with a collector's edition or a special edition in this sort of range. Especially a book series like The Expanse that's quite sizable and long. I think it's 10 books in total. They have released the 3 books, and it took a couple years to get books 2 and 3. However, will we get the next 7 books? I really hope so, but it does create that sort of worry. If you're buying it directly from the publishers, they will only keep creating these and doing the rest of the books if these are profitable enough. However, they are beautiful. I do like the sprayed edges, albeit quite simple. I do like the minimalist design with that sort of sci-fi look. However, in my opinion, within this range, you're better looking at some of these other companies that are directly creating just special editions. The collector editions are really nice, but if you look at someone like Broken Binding, who create books in this same price range, you do get a lot more bang for your buck, in my opinion. And that is because if we look at something like the Black Tongue Thief, beautiful cover, but the sprayed edges are a continuation of the cover. It's not just that block sprayed edge that we get from something like the collector's editions for The Expanse. And it's the same with the prequel book, The Daughter's War. And they look absolutely beautiful. And these sell for about the same sort of price as the collector's editions for The Expanse. That being said, while these are very minimalist in design with their naked hardbacks, if you look at something like their John Gwynne set for the Of Blood and Bone series, not only do they have new art across the sprayed edges, that is a new illustration from the books, the naked hardbacks also have new art on them as well that look absolutely beautiful. You also have smaller companies like Inkstone Books, who are a fairly new special edition company. And what I really like about Inkstone Books is that the owner creates special editions of books that he personally loved. So I picked up the spear that cuts through water from them, and it does have this nice shiny cover and block sprayed edges, but they do have other editions with more complex sprayed edges as well. Within the same bracket, you have companies like Illumicrate that quite often do sets of books. So they did do the Greenbone Saga, where they have these really nice editions with this foil cover inlaid directly on the naked hardback without a dust jacket, and these really nice sprayed edges as well. And again, this is within the £30 to £40 range per book. So the sort of things that you can expect in this sort of price range for special editions is sprayed edges seems to be very common, usually block, but sometimes you do get these stenciled edges or the sprayed edges from companies like Broken Binding. Sometimes you get alternate covers. For me, this is a really big draw because if I see a book that I really like but I'm not a huge fan of the cover, I do sometimes look at these types of special editions just to see if there's some alternate art and things. I wasn't a huge fan of the traditionally standard copies of Greenbone, so as soon as I saw Illumicrate doing this set, I knew I had to jump on it because I love how these look. For the sake of this video, I am not including subscription books because I will say people like Broken Binding do offer a little bit more for books that they are doing for their subscription, and it is within the same sort of price range as this. It's £30 to £40. I think currently it's about £34 if you're in the UK to a month to get a book from Broken Binding on their subscription series. And for their sub books, they do offer more things. So like the Jade City Greenbone, which they just recently did, new art, really detailed sprayed edges, really nice naked hardback designs, as well as new custom art for the end papers, a new map, which is also fold out in the Greenbone Saga. Then if we jump up from the £50 to sort of £70 price range, you start getting editions like this from Wraithmarked Creative, who did this special edition as a Kickstarter for the Sword of Kaigan. First of all, the standout is the art is from Felix Ortiz. It is absolutely stunning. They have a designer called Sean King, and he's incredible at what he does, and I do think the design work really stands out with Wraithmarked books. I think they really kill it working with Sean. He always does incredible jobs with sort of the design of the cover and the typography. That's what really stands out to me with Wraithmarked Creative. It does have shiny silvered edges, new art on the end papers, also a new map as an end paper. And one thing I really like about this edition is the quality of the hardback. We'll get on to why I really like the quality of this one in particular once we jump up a rung and look at some of the publishers and the choices they make with materials, but Wraithmarked really focus on high quality materials for their books in this price range. I think this hardback is really robust. You can feel how strong the hardback is, and I wouldn't be afraid from reading from this book. In fact, I did read from this book, and it still looks new. Very minimalist design, but I think it really matches the story. It's got katakana on the cover, because it does take inspiration from Japanese history. Another thing about Wraithmarked in particular is they do a fantastic job of interior formatting and design. They don't just do your standard book. You start getting things like a lot more from like the glossary and the things before, some more maps inside, but also they do really nice things like this, where they have the start of chapters being on a black page with white ink, and new just overall design. The original is very simple with its interior formatting, but this one looks absolutely incredible with the black pages, and then it goes back to white for the main chapters. I'll overlay some B-roll so you can get a better view of this, but they do also have this distressed sort of darkened vintage faded look where they've added some texture to the white pages as well. And this is something the Wraithmark do a lot with their different editions. And this is very much a taste thing. I personally really like it. I think it looks really cool. I know some people aren't a fan and they don't do it with every edition, but I do think just small things like this where they're willing to try new sort of interior designs, I think really stands out and makes their editions look fantastic. This sort of 50 to 70 price range is where you will expect to see interior illustrations, things like this from the sort of Kaigan. beautiful. This one's kind of the only art that's spoiler free, so but there is a lot more inside as well. They are just black and white, but you can get colored illustrations inside books within this price range if you look at something from the Broken Binding. The Broken Binding do things like their press edition line, which is where they take self-published and indie titles and republish them with their sort of flair, and they put a lot of thought into these books. This has got the foiled cover. This is Of Blood and Fire by Ryan Cahill, and it's absolutely stunning. In my opinion, this is one of the best that they've done. But it has the gold foil on the cover, golden sprayed edges, really cool and nice sort of cloth bound feel, naked hardback with the gold foil on that as well. And it does feel very luxury, much like the Sword of Kaigen from Wraithmarked. This is where you'll start feeling a big difference in the feel of books, sort of with the materials that they use. They do feel more premium within this price range. As you can see, full double page colored art is also something that's quite common in this sort of price range. Absolutely beautiful, and there's several pieces throughout this book. It's not just the one. Some of them are black and white drawings as well. It's kind of a mix between the two, but I quite like having the variation. I mean, look at that. It's absolutely stunning piece. As for the publishers themselves, they do also sometimes offer deluxe hardbacks, things like these King Killer books. And while these are absolutely beautiful covers, and I do think this is probably my favorite editions of King Killers that you can get, other than the design work with the new cover, the really nice sprayed edges, and the very minimalist naked hardbacks, they don't offer any new art or anything like that on the interior. It is very much just a higher quality, different sort of designs. However, I will say these are really nice. From here, books start to get pretty damn expensive, and there's quite sizable jumps from here on out. Sort of the 70 up to 150 is quite a diverse range of different books. This is where you'll start to see some of the cloth-bound, leather-bound edition books from publishers. Things like this really nice edition of Lord of the Rings from HarperCollins. There is one for the Silmarillion and the Hobbit as well. And they do come with slip cases, gold foiled edges. This is a cloth bound cover, and it's a leather bound around the spine. This one did come with some goodies such as the King's Letter, leaves from the Book of Mazar Bull, and some fold out maps as well, which was a really nice touch. What really drew me to this edition was the fact that it has some new unseen illustrations from J.R.R. Tolkien himself, which I really wanted to see, and they are beautiful. And getting to see it from the author's perspective is really cool. In my opinion, the 50 to 70 range is when you'll see the most bang for your buck. Sort of within those books is where you'll get interior illustrations, really nice materials, new designs, really nice foiled covers, sprayed edges, naked hardback designs. That's kind of the most that you'll get, is from the 50 and 70 range. That's the luxury with all the add-ons type tier, in my opinion. I do think anything above that is when you start getting things like these added extras, like the fold-out maps. But not always. I do have one book I want to show you. Orbit did release this special edition of Eye of the World. And I do want to say the design work is beautiful. That's stunning. That's the slipcase. Comes out. Has this sort of foiled cover. And is beautiful. It is absolutely stunning. It reminds me a lot of the folio editions of Game of Thrones, which I think look incredible. But this was £100. And it's block sprayed edges. And yes, the design works great, but the material, I do not like this material at all. I'll do some close-up shots, but this frays really easily around the edges. It came frayed. The edges were already kind of faded, and I'm just not a fan of this material at all. It's not worth the £100 they charge for it. Not only that, but they do have nice art on the end papers. But that's it. It's just that one piece of art on the end paper. The interior is exactly the same as the main books. There's no interior art. There's no new design work on the inside. It is just the standard book wrapped up in this not the best material, even though it has a really nice design. Was that worth £100? No, not when you look at something like this, which was half the price, and it's beautiful, and it comes with interior art, sprayed edges, really nice naked hardback, new cover, foiled, interior illustrations, new design work, and that's half the price of something like this. So, price point does not always equate to quality. However, for the £100 price range, you do start getting really nice leather-bound books. Especially recently with indie authors, I don't see many big publishers doing this very sort of expensive £100 type leather-bound books apart from Lord of the Rings. But if you go into the indie space, there's people like M.L. Spencer doing Dragon Mage, and Dragon Mage is absolutely stunning. This is leather-bound, beautiful cover, beautiful spine, this sort of old leather-bound book look. Same with the design on the back, stunning, golden edges. But what's really cool about this book in particular, with the edges, if you tilt the pages like that, it shows art on the edges. So that's the original cover, which is beautiful in itself. And not only that, but if you do it the other way, there's another piece of art on the edges. It's just unreal, absolutely stunning. Much like Wraithmarked, they do have the black pages and white text just for the start of the chapter, and then into normal pages after that, which I think looks really nice. They have dragon illustrations just kind of to act as spacers. And on top of all that, there is also character illustrations inside this book as well. So that's insane to think this cost the exact same as this. It's ridiculous. Because this, it really is beautiful, and it's a really nice leather-bound book. Also within the indie space, we have a Threadlight trilogy from Zach Argyle. It came with this beautiful slipcase. And what I really liked about this book is the detail that they have on the leather-bound book. I mean, look at that. It's so complicated. Really nice sprayed edges. Beautiful design that carries on from the cover. This was about £100 as well, and it has brand new art from the series on the end papers, but also full page coloured art inside for the series as well. And not only that, but this is 3 books. This is the entire Threadlight trilogy in one omnibus that costs £100. As well as that, there are smaller sketches inside the book, and also brand new formatting. I will say, I do think this Threadlight book is probably the most beautiful book that I have in my collection. It's absolutely stunning. And any price ranges kind of above this sort of £100 range is not really something I'm that familiar with, so we're only going to talk about one other book that I own. And that is the leatherbound edition of Way of Kings. Because the book is over 1,000 pages, and leatherbound books can only hold so many pages, this does come in 2 volumes. First of all, really nice slipcase. And the first thing you'll notice with these is it has some weight to it. These are really high quality materials, even within the leather bound range. Beautiful designs on the covers and spines. I do really like the insignia on the spine. It looks really, really good and really detailed for leather bound books. So this was $250. This is really, really expensive sort of range of books now. I grabbed it after I was gifted some money for graduating university, and I ended up using some of my own money, and I wanted to use that gifted money to buy something that just made me remember finishing university. So I thought, why not grab the Stormlight Archive, my favorite series of all time, in these beautiful leatherbound editions. What I do really like about these is you have got the art inside, and what Sanderson has done is you have all the alternate covers. So it has art from the different covers from Way of Kings from across the world. So it's the UK cover, the Japanese cover, and everything else in between. Other than that, the interior is the same. They did go for this dual sort of tone where they have it colored in blue, which is really nice. And in the standard editions, you do get Shalon's drawings, but we do get Shalon's drawings in dual color as well with this leatherbound edition. But other than that, the content is exactly the same. I will say they do feel very luxury and very robust. I would happily read from these and I wouldn't feel like it'd be damaging the book, which is great. And it does come with some new pieces of art inside as well. So the question is, what special editions are worth picking up? Now, this is incredibly difficult for me to answer. It's so dependent on what you're looking for in a special edition, and I do think that the price point doesn't always equate to quality. I did say this early in the video, but pure bang for your buck, I do think the sort of £50 range, you're not going to get much better than, even if you spend double, if not more. I do think £50, if you buy a £50 special edition book, they're absolutely stunning. You get all the added extras. That's kind of the most you'll be able to get, in my personal opinion. However, if you do want to get like a leatherbound or something like that, they quite often cost a little bit more. That being said, even for £30, you can get some beautiful books nowadays. This edition of Silver Blood Promise is still one of my favorite books in my collection. It is absolutely beautiful with the new art, and it's a really good book, and I do think that they really blew it out of the park with this edition in particular. What I really like about modern day reading is how accessible books have become and how tiered everything has become. If you want to go out and you can buy the fanciest edition, you can do that. There's accessibility to books of all different price ranges is so much better nowadays than it has been in the past. If you want to spend a little bit more and get a beautiful book with some sprayed edges and a nice naked hardback design, that's just for a little bit more than a standard hardback, you can do that. But equally, you can also just grab a paperback book. You can get them secondhand now for some really cheap prices. Or if you want to go down the ebook route, they can be so cheap, especially on sale for ebooks. So often ebooks are on sale, you can get them for a couple £, if not less. And while I'm not always a huge fan of Amazon, especially with the fact that they have the monopoly of a lot of especially the ebook side of the book market, I do think that things like Kindle Unlimited, where you're paying, I think it's $7.99 a month, to get access to every single book in the Kindle Unlimited catalog, which is huge, is a really, really good deal. And in the end, you do not need to be a book collector to be a reader. I'm personally a big nerd and I love having fantasy art and different types of books. Having the interior illustrations and being able to nerd about all the different amazing artists that we have right now, people like Jeff Brown, Felix Ortiz, is very much a different hobby, and you don't need to have fancy books to be a reader. I just want to make that 100% clear, because I know it's nice getting to talk about books, and again, I love showing books and talking about them, but I absolutely hate the idea that someone watches this and thinks it's a requirement in any way to be a reader or to be interacting with the online community or create a YouTube page or an Instagram page or anything like that. It's not. It's all added extras, and in the end, it's always the characters and the story that stick with me for any length of time. But let me know in the comments below, if money was no object, what special edition would you love to own? Thank you very much for watching. Outro. Special edition. Hello, Meg.